Jess.fm. Voice only. Ride along.
Hi guys, how are you? Welcome to Jess.fm episode 7? 7? Can you believe that? It's episode 7. I love the number 7. Number 7 is the number of completion. And I feel like today's a very special milestone because reaching episode 7, I think, completely substantiate this idea into the real world. So thank you all for being here. Now, here's the thing. I got to stay consistent. I have to stay consistent by all means. And that is what I intend to do for the last now 7 days, or 7 business days, we'll call it. We have rode together, chit-chatting about just topical news, things that are going on around us, things that people may be talking about or may not be talking about. And today is no different. So I'm just so happy to be here. I am still broadcasting live from Columbus, Ohio. If you tuned in yesterday and or last week, you knew that I'm traveling on business, but still wanting to get the good work done. And the good work is sharing with you guys some of my thoughts on what's going on. And so I'm so happy you're checked in and you're tuned in. Have you been seeing our clips on your YouTube shorts? I am trying to flood the market a little bit. I'm a little scared though, because if I don't stay consistent, that could be problematic, but I can guarantee you I am going to be optimistic. I'm going to keep motivating myself, and just seeing the traction that the content is giving is making me feel so proud. We talked about this on previous episodes, but what's your brainchild? Comment it down below. Comment what's your brainchild and why haven't you started it yet? Because I am so interested to hear and help maybe you solve some of your obstacles so you can get that thing up and running, because every day you don't move is a day that you've lost. And you've never been younger than you are today. So don't tell yourself you're too old. Don't tell yourself you're too young. Don't tell yourself you're too anything. Like, your idea is conceived from your brain, and you are the only brain that has your brain on this universe. So I just wanted to kind of share those words of wisdom and motivation with you. How's the weather? The weather here in Columbus is similar to the weather in North Texas. It is rainy off and on. It's hot, but not. It's a very interesting weather. I've only been to Columbus a couple times in my life, and each time it's very cloudy. Is this normal? If you're from Columbus, in the comments, is this cloudy weather normal? Is it always this way? I'm just interested to hear. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like every time I come, it seems a little bit rainy, but still at the same time, a really cool place to be. Really nice city, and I'd definitely come back. I am capital of Ohio. Go Ohio State, I guess, while I'm here. Go Ohio State, but not for long, because once I'm back in Texas, I am a Texas diehard. All right. So you can clip that, because you probably will never hear me say Go Ohio State again. But as with any day, I'm again just so super eager to share. There's some topics here or there that I've been seeing on the streets of social media. Can't necessarily just say YouTube streets, can't necessarily say just X streets. I don't really interact on Facebook. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have not logged into Facebook for years. Why that matters is because you probably won't ever hear me talking about news that you see on Facebook unless you commented. Bring to me some other topics, but I also like to follow like national news, local news, different things like that. And so I don't see any of that in our lineup today, but do stay tuned. As with anything, there's a lot going on in our world, in our universe, and it is imperative that we keep ourselves whole and we continue to protect our peace. All right. So if you feel like anything is throwing you off of your kilter, just keep that in mind. It's you're all you got. Okay. And you have the power to create the reality that you want to see in your life. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So here's an example of that. the first topic that I want to cover today. And I just want to preface this conversation with, I do not know this individual personally. I think that they would be a nice individual to meet, to be totally honest. But when we talk about your ability to create your own reality, it's very, very imperative that you know that that could either be for the good or for the bad. All right. I have been, keeping up with the streamer universe for some time. I am so excited to see the capabilities that the streaming personalities have shown the world, that if you could just be yourself and turn on a camera, you can actually grow a brand. And we see it with individuals like Kai Cenat. We see it with individuals like DDG, which is so funny. Like when DDG became mainstream, I'll call it. I would say he was already mainstream, but a lot of people did not know him until he started dating the Little Mermaid. And people were like, who is this guy? He's leeching off of her, not knowing that this guy has his own fan base that he has grown over the years from streaming, probably over a decade. And it makes me laugh because I knew that, but so many people did not know that. And so many people were presuming that he was, trying to, leech off of her audience and this, that, and the other. And it's just not true. I say that to say the pocket of the world that you sit in may not be the only pocket. And if you want to get, knowledgeable about what's around you and not look silly, making your preconceived judgments, you should branch out and, get to see some things, get to know some things that you don't normally see. And so I say that this first story comes from the streamer universe. One particular streamer is not getting, as much positive attention as I think she should get. But in all fairness, again, it comes with, just some moves and some acts that are live on recording. So it's kind of hard to get away from your own self. But has anyone heard of the streamer Light Skin Kim? Light Skin Kim, shout out to you. I see you, girl. I see you. I started seeing a lot of news around Light Skin Kim apparently being kicked out of a party, an AMP pool party. And I was like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. Like, she may not be embarrassed, but I would be embarrassed if I got kicked out of a party. And that made me curious, like, why did she get kicked out of the party? Because I know that I just saw her at Streamer University. So what's going on? And so, as with anything, there's always some other YouTuber like me out talking about stuff. And I got tapped in a little bit, and I noticed that there was a lot of pushback on her and her, I don't know if I could call this her brand, because I want to say this is not her brand. I'll just say her choices. Which people, over time, your choices do become your brand. So this is really a call to share advice with Light Skin Kim and people like Light Skin Kim, who are trying to make a name for themselves, and how critical it is that you're very, very mindful of every choice that you make, and making sure that you don't sacrifice your values in order for fame, right? Like, we see enough of that. They call that selling your soul. And I think beautiful young women like Kim, if that's your real name, sweetheart, I'm sorry if not, but beautiful individuals like Kim and others who are trying to grow a new brand. Look, like me, I'm trying to grow a brand, for heaven's sake. But we have to be very, very, very mindful of the choices that we make and what will stick with us and what will leave lasting impression on people's mental psyche, like, and in their memory. Like, because it's very, very easy to do something that you thought was very casual, very careless, and people, before you know it, are making whole YouTube videos about it. So I'm going to tell you some of the points of the YouTube video. I don't know the creator, so unfortunately, if you are interested in learning more, you would have to comment me and you can kind of go find that creator. Or look, one of the listeners might be the creator of the video, so comment below if it's you, if you know who created this video. But long story short, they talked about a couple reasons why they believe that Light Skin Kim got put out of this party. And the only reason I'm bringing it here is because the reasons are ones that I see not just her, but a lot of girls make. And some of them maybe justifiably so, others maybe not so much. So reason number one, apparently during Streamer University, she was very, very, I guess heavy on her interactions with DDG, only to after Streamer University, and when, some news started coming out about him that was less than favorable, not so, I don't want to get into that, but in any event, she was commenting on, one of the blog platforms, and the comment was not taken well, I'll say that, by DDG. And so I don't know if that's the reason she got kicked out of the party. I know that DDG and Kai have a fairly good relationship, but some of the other things that I saw was interesting. That maybe it was less about DDG and more about something else. And so, the words of wisdom that I have for that is, when you're around people that you want to get to know better, it's okay if you stay in your own frame. It's okay if you maintain your own brand and who you are. Like, if it is your brand to hang on people and different things like that, fine, right? Like, some of us are really touchy-feely with individuals. We like to give hugs. We like to do these kinds of things, fine. However, if that's not you and you start portraying that person, you have to kind of stay like that type of person. And so I think the discomfort that DDG may have felt from this comment was, you were just like kind of friendly with me, and then this comment doesn't look so friendly. And so you either gotta stay friendly, or you guys keep it copacetic and keep everything very, very professional. That's what I try to do in my interactions. I'm talking about, how I interact just even in the workplace. Like, I have to be authentic to myself. I cannot start being someone else, because I might forget who that fake someone was one day, and when I revert back to who I really am, they're gonna be looking at me like, who is this girl? You know what I mean? I can relate this not just to like streamers and YouTubers and entertainers. I can relate this to all of us who's listening in our day-to-day lives. Like, we network all the time, believe it or not. This channel is a version of networking, if we can make it one, right? Like, I constantly am asking you to comment, because I feel like that's where communities start. It starts with sharing ideas and sharing thoughts and sharing tips and sharing best practices, right? But we can do that in a way that is authentic and not inauthentic. And maybe in Light Skin Kim's case, she was being authentic to herself in both veins. But when people barely know us, you have to be careful of making sure they fully know you, or at least know a little bit more about you, before you start showing them those multifacets. You know what I mean? Because they just may not understand what's going on. And so that was one piece of, insight that I could offer someone. If Light Skin Kim was my sister or my cousin or my friend, I probably would have advised her not to be so like touchy-feely as much, at Streamer University, so she can maintain her objective thoughts, which is what I believe she was trying to give with the comment that she left on the blogger post. Like, I don't think she was intending to be malicious, to be totally honest. And apparently she did come out with some form of response to some of the heat that she's been getting. I don't know if she addressed this, but I'm just giving, those words of advice, almost like a big sister, almost like a mentor of some sorts. The other thing that I noticed was the interactions that she had with Kai Cenat. Now, Kai is, if anyone who follows him, he's in a very committed relationship, looks healthy, looks happy, looks sustaining, right? None of us are there. We don't really know, but we know that he protects his relationship. And apparently, Light Skin Kim made a post of her going into Kai's Streamer University professor office, giving him a hug, which he doesn't typically do, and also posting an interesting caption, something along the lines of, Kai gets a hug from the most attractive person at the university in front of his girlfriend. And I'm just like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do stuff like that. Like, you don't want to try to shake the boat in that kind of way. Like, shake the boat with who you are and what voice that you have to bring. Don't try to do like things that will make people look at you away. And I can tell you, as someone who's married, anyone who would be rubbing up on my husband, I'm going to look at you away just for that, let alone what you do after, like, post a caption and all this kind of stuff. So again, I don't believe that Kim has bad intentions. I do, however, think that, sometimes we get a little excited, we get a little eager, but we have to maintain our frame. You know what I mean? We have to do that every time. And so these things, this either of these things, both of these things, other things that we don't know about could have been the reason why she was uninvited, I guess, to the party, or maybe she wasn't invited, showed up, and they were just like, no, invite only. I'm not quite sure about all those details, but the point that I wanted to make in bringing this story or this perspective here today is less about all the ins and outs and things like that, and more about the optics, because guys, like, optics matter. Like, a lot of the times people like to say, well, I didn't mean that. And I told y'all a story yesterday in story time, on my episode that you have to go back and check out. Like, sometimes you can have all the right intentions but still get the wrong results, right? And for someone like Light Skin Kim, who's early in her brand, like, this is something that you have to think about moving forward. It's nothing you can't come back from, right? Like, maybe a certain group of people are saying they don't want you around, but who cares? Like, there's other groups of people, and or else you start your own group of people. Who cares, right? But learn from it is all I would advise. It's like, learn from it, understand where you want to kind of move a little differently. Especially attractive young women, like, we have to understand how to move. We have to understand that those of us who are attractive, like, just the simple looking at someone could trigger something optically to someone else who doesn't know what's going on. So we have to be very, very mindful, and it's not always easy, it's not always fair, but life's not fair, so it's fine, right? So that's just one of the things that I found very, very interesting that was on my timeline over the weekend. Actually, I was going to bring this to yesterday's episode, but we had a lot to talk about yesterday, so I thought I'd bring it here because the point still stands. Manage your optics, stay in your frame, be authentic. These are things you hear all the time. It's not cliche. It's the way of life, right? And then the more that you embrace it, the more that you will start to see the results in life that you want to see. And until you get there, you might kind of burn some bridges along the way that could be very, very valuable to you later. So just be careful with that. Be careful with how you move. Long story short. But that story kind of reminds me of talking about how people move, a different type, I guess, take, kind of still, no, this one is not really within the streamer universe, but more so, I would say, in the podcasting universe. So, get this. There have been a lot of conversations about DDG's situation, and so much so that some people have said some things that I don't know if they meant towards him or if they were speaking out of passion and from projection. Here's an example of what I mean by that. The Joe Budden podcast, which I do frequent. I don't watch full episodes anymore like I used to, but I still check out clips and different things. And one of the interesting clips that I saw was Melissa Ford giving her take on what she thought about the whole DDG situation. And she was very, very passionately leaning in one direction. And I'm going to just say this to start off. Like, that's fine if you want to take a stance on things, but how you take the stance can be, I would say, more meaningful than not. So Melissa gave her stance that she's 10 toes down, sticking on the side of the Little Mermaid. However, when she made that stance, she did get backlash because a lot of what her reasoning was for sticking by was, let me kind of paint this picture based on what I know. And this picture that she painted like completely villainizes one party in this two-party dispute, right? There's two people involved in this situation. There's DDG, there's a Little Mermaid. And for you to kind of like just take a side and do so in a way where you like villainize the other person, I think that's dangerous. I think that's dangerous for commentators. I think it's dangerous for people who claim to be open-minded. I don't know if she's ever claimed to be open-minded. So again, this Melissa Ford may never hear this. But for all of those of you who are listening, who are often asked your opinions on things, think about it holistically. Don't just think about one little excerpt of it. And how I know that she was thinking of one excerpt is on the subsequent episode of Joe Budden podcast. They talked about the blowback that she received from, they call it DDG followers or whatnot. I don't think it's that. I think it's anyone who heard it, anyone who heard it and heard the bias in it. And she proudly, doubled down on her bias. The reason that she gave, though, guys, was, well, in this situation, Little Mermaid was obviously suffering from postpartum, and I too have had postpartum, so I get that. That's heavy. Okay, so I do want to take a pause for that. That's heavy. I think in Melissa's situation, this is where she and I would relate. I think she miscarried. And I myself, I have had 2 ectopic pregnancies in my life. I have lost 2 babies. And to this day, they would be 10 years old or 11 years old and 12 years old, or maybe 10 and 11. In any event, those babies did not get to make it here to this earth. So I understand the depression. I understand the darkness that you go through. And anyone who's out there going through it right now, I'm with you. People are not going to ask or want to talk about it because it's a very sensitive subject. People are not going to want to, push you in any one direction. Get over it. Don't get over it, because they're looking at you and they know that there's nothing they can do. It's such a helpless situation. Like me going through that, me and my husband, we overcame it, obviously. But it took years, guys. Like it took years for me to overcome. I don't know if it was called postpartum. To me, I was grieving at the loss of children. And that is the hardest thing that families go through. So I'm going to start there. Families go through the loss of life. Okay? What I'm starting to see in our age is women making that their plight. Like, oh, this is a woman's issue and women only go through this and only women. And as someone who went through that with my husband, I will tell you, it's not just the woman. It's not just the woman. I don't like the weaponization of postpartum that I'm starting to see from some ladies. I don't like it. And I bring it up because that's a part of why Melissa made her stance, because she has been through a similar situation that I have been through, that Hallie's been through, that, lots of mothers have been through. Yes, but there has also been other people involved. Some of you say, well, the father isn't there. Or the father didn't have to deal with it. The father didn't have to be pregnant. Fine. Let's set that aside. What about everybody else? Right? You and what you're going through is going to have some effect on people. Yes. But here's what we need to be careful of, ladies. We should not weaponize our postpartum. We should not be out here saying, because I went through postpartum, blank. Like, oh, you should understand because I was going through postpartum. It was okay if I did that because I was going through postpartum. Our circumstance does not give us an excuse to mistreat people. I'm going to repeat that. Our circumstance does not give us an excuse to mistreat people. Now, the mistreatment, the circumstance could be the reason for mistreatment, but yet and still mistreatment is mistreatment. So whether it was, I am going off on you out the blue, flying off the handle, cursing you out, or I, don't want to talk to you because this, that, and the other, whatever the mistreatment is, you don't get the benefit of leaning back and saying, well, I was going through postpartum and you should understand. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair for the human experience. If you need help, I think that you should be asking for help, not pushing people away. If you can't handle your emotions, ladies, that's okay. And you can do something about it. You know what I mean? It's not just sitting around being a dark cloud to everyone. And this is coming from someone who has grieved. Okay, this is coming from someone with loss, that I'm surprised that I can even talk to you all about this without crying, because it took me years to not cry. So I get it. But we have to remember we're a part of a larger scheme of the human experience, right? We're just one piece of it. And when we go through these hard, heavy things, it'd be best that we pull people closer to us, not push them away. All right. And when and if we find a lady who's going through something similar that we've been through, it's not just automatically taking her side. It's really dissecting how he maybe can grow in understanding and she can grow better in understanding of the optical management, right? I guess this is a theme about optics today, but optical management of things. And, how can we still have productive, healthy lives even when you're sick? That's possible, guys. We've come to a time in our human experience where people feel like if I'm going through something, everything stops. I call that main character syndrome. All right. Like in no case does everything around us stop. Everything is still going. Part of my grieving journey, and what I regret the most is I didn't grieve long enough, because I would say this advice I'm giving to you all, too extreme. Like, I recognize that, yes, life goes on, and I actually kept trying to live it. Like, I kid you not, my first ectopic pregnancy, I was back at work 2 weeks later. There's no way I should be doing that. Okay. I should be getting help. I should be giving myself time to grieve, obviously, but I should not be mistreating people in the meantime. I just shouldn't. There's going to be a time where you feel like you can't talk to people, and maybe you have a season of no, where you're not like hanging around, and that's okay. But when you're interacting with people, you can't be flying off the handle. You can't be going in this direction, going in that direction. Okay. And then saying, oh, postpartum, or, oh, miscarriage, or, oh, ectopic. And I know this is deep. But hey, this is Just FM. This is what we do. We have raw, unfiltered conversation. And these are my unfiltered thoughts. Like, it is critical as women that we be mindful. And this is why you want a really, really strong family base around you, right? So if you're a family base of a woman who's going through, and this woman is spinning off the handle, you know what I mean? You got to be flexible in the way that you maybe have to point her towards the help that she needs. Okay. Don't like get into tit for tats with her. Understand, yes, the timing of things and what's happening and what has just recently happened, but use your emotional intelligence supporter to maybe help guide her in the right direction instead of villainizing her. And so I think that there was villainization on both sides of this story. Melissa called out only one side of the villainization, and I think that's why she got the blowback. But she did it for a cause, and she did it because she could relate. So she projected her pain onto a situation that was not her situation. And I think that was the misstep. But again, I know she had all the best intentions. So this is not a bash towards her. It's just a more dynamic, layered view of the conversation. Your circumstances is not an open door for you to mistreat people. And I think if we can kind of keep that in our back pocket, it'll really help a lot of the relationships that we have and we experience in our life. And again, a season of no is okay. If you don't feel like that you can be around people without flying off the hinges, then don't be around people. Give yourself some time and space, and then re-engage with folks. You know what I mean? But do it when you know you can treat them like you would want to be treated at best, or even better. So those are two stories this is really like optic centric, really like words of wisdom centric, but stories that people are talking about that I wanted to bring to the episode today. So as with always, I want to keep these things brief. I want to keep it concise, and I want to give us enough to talk about in the comments. So again, comment, like, share, subscribe to this channel, everybody. And don't forget, like, we are producing Just FM together. I'm just, on here speaking. We have the help of some AI, but I also want to hear from you. What do you want to talk about next? What do you want to revisit? What do we need to revisit? Some of the topics we've hit on over the past 7 days have been very, very, very intriguing, and they keep evolving. And I think these that we talked about today also could evolve, but that's only going to come with, me being consistent. And so I'm so, again, happy to bring you episode 7 today. Look out for the clips. Look out for the loopback episodes. If you can't listen to the long form, I have all this content out, and it's really just for you. So until next time, I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for riding with Jess.fm. See you next ride.